there's a new way of thinking. This new way of thinking definitely will change the way you look at life.
We simply change our thoughts. We simply change the way we look at life. Because our thoughts essentially become our beliefs, and our beliefs become our actions, and our actions become our realities. And when we simply change the thought, or rather the translation of what's actually happening around us, and we look at it from a friendly world and not from a hostile world, we will only see opportunity, and we will only be guided by the light. You know, like we're sitting in the studio and this light streaming in, and you know, we tell the studio manager that, listen, we can't focus on the keyboard because there's way too much light and it's affecting our visibility in the studio. So they come and they put in some nice blinds over the window. And we're still finding a bit of light coming through and still affecting maybe the mic and the speaker system. So then we put a block out lining and a big curtain around it. And we're still not happy because there's still a little sheet of light coming in. So then they go and they put shutters from the outside. Now we sit at 10 o'clock in the morning in the studio and it's pitch dark. And the question I ask, did the light stop shining? We simply blocked out the light.
We blocked it out. Okay, that's a lesson. Definitely, it makes so much of sense when you put it in that simple layman's terms. You know, that everybody understands about this. So if you're listening, folks, and you know exactly what Khalid is talking about, and he's telling you to change your way of thinking, to change your mind, When you look at something, look at it with a different perspective. Don't look at just one angle, like you have blinkers on your eyes and you're just seeing the green grass in front of you or the dry grass in front of you. There's a big wide world out there for you to see, and there's so many opportunities that's waiting, so many doors left to be opened. It's just for you to open it.
Absolutely, and I have a nice little simple analogy. I have the ABC of the victor and I have the ABC of the victor. And a lot of our listeners could identify and decide which ABC they are now following or subscribing to. I simply say that the ABC of the victim is accusation, blame, and complaint. Perpetually accusing, perpetually blaming, and perpetually complaining. And the ABC of the victor is action, belief, and choice. And we can simply, just by our thoughts, decide which ABC we want to choose. And magically, mystically, inspiringly, when you choose the ABC of the victor, everything in your life changes. Because you change the way you look at things. And action, belief, choice. Everything in life is a choice. We can choose to react, we can choose to respond. We can choose to be negative, we can choose to be positive. We can choose to be happy, we can choose to be sad. We can choose to look at adversity as opportunity, or we can choose to look at adversity as negative adversity and become victims to that. So when we understand that we are perpetually creators, we are godlike creatures, and you know, if our hands were the hands of God, we simply just want to take these hands and give, because that's what God does all the time. He simply just gives. And when you have the nature of giving and contributing, and you become a vessel of channeling all this energy and this giving, inadvertently you will receive blessings, and you will become a bigger vessel to be able to give more. And we simply cannot be able to help people with their pain until such time we don't absorb the pain and release their pain. You know, when I became a coach, we have a 4-session therapy, which lasts between 2 and 3 hours per session. And my coaching premise initially that was taught by me was, we don't want to entertain victims, we don't want to make people live on the effect side of life. We simply want to get them and we want to start fixing them. We've got the toolbox and we want to start repairing them and start instilling all this wisdom that we have and all these techniques that we have and all these strategies that we have. And consciously along my journey, I started learning that that's not necessarily the way we should, or I should execute my session. So I started changing the premise of my session, where I would sit in my first session and I would simply listen to my client. And the funny thing was, after that session, they would feel so fulfilled because they were able to speak, and through the expression of the issues, they even answered their own issues and answered their own questions.
It was like unleashing the burdens to you.
And not only that, within the unleashing of the burden, Sharita, they actually found the solutions. They started answering their own
They
questions
found their own.
and felt foolish. But that foolishness was that aha moment. It was that instant change that made them realize that, listen, I'm just a victim of my own thoughts. I'm not experiencing the world. I'm simply experiencing my thoughts. I'm simply influencing my observations. And I'm translating it in a hostile manner. Let me reframe it. Let me redirect my thoughts. Let me change my thought process. Let me change my thought recognition. I mean, I'll ask all our listeners, how many times in our life didn't we feel like we want to kill somebody?
Yes, the anger and frustration.
To our own kids, to our own parents, to our own family, to our own spouses. I'm going to kill this guy. Because you were frustrated, you were angry.
Come on the edge.
Come on the edge. And the simple question is, did you kill them? Obviously not. Why? You simply understood that it was a thought recognition. And when I take this thought and I don't give it consciousness, it simply is just a thought, it will disappear. But when I take a thought and I give it consciousness, so that guy or that lady who's sitting in prison for 30 years for taking out a spouse, she simply or he simply gave that thought consciousness, and they made that thought a reality, and a result and an outcome was achieved. So when we identify that all our thoughts come in, and it's all about recognition. You see, like the mind, it's not a camera, it's not a recording camera that record events as they are. The mind is actually a paintbrush. It is perpetually painting our reality. It's like a projector in a movie house. You take a reel, you take some thoughts, you put it onto a film, and you project it onto a screen. Now that eventually becomes a reality, but it's not real. We all know that it's just an illusion for the 2 hours while we're watching the movie. So we're watching Bollywood and we feel like we're Shah Rukh Khan and we're in romance, or we're watching Spider-Man, or we're watching Superman. And within that movie, we as adults actually believe we become superheroes, we can fly. And that is just a thought recognition via an interpretation, which is elevating the consciousness. And the moment the movie comes out and you realize that you've got to walk home because you've got a flat tire, you realize you're not a superhero. But it's simply the way we express our thoughts.
And that I think the thought of fulfillment, watching the movie, that the moments of hallucination when you were the hero on that screen. And there's millions of people in India who just live with that, who got absolutely nothing. But those moments of hallucination are the greatest moments for them. And that's what makes them hold on to life and faith.
You know, Auntie Sharita, we should all be living like that. I always give an analogy and I say, imagine that we live in a glass elevator of life, and this elevator is looking out to the world. Now, most of us, where would we want to live? If we had a really tall building with amazing views, where would you like to live? Always on the top floor. We want to live in the penthouse. And I say this elevator has only got 3 levels. The first level is the ground floor. When we're on the ground floor, life is extremely objective, because we can hear, feel, touch everything that's going on. So we make assumptions from an objective point of view. So if there's a couple kissing there, we would objectively think they're falling in love. If there's a couple fighting, we would objectively think they have an issue. When we get to the middle floor, life becomes a little more subjective, because we can't actually hear exactly what's going on. We can't exactly see what's going on. So we start to assume what's going on, and that subjectivity starts happening through us, and we see life through the subjective process. And then, of course, we get to the penthouse. The penthouse is so high, so vast, so out there in the sky, that you can't hear nothing except muzzled sounds going down at the bottom and muzzled vision. You know, like the higher we get, the smaller everything gets in life. And the beauty of living in the penthouse is the life then becomes an illusion. You don't live objectively, you don't live subjectively. You simply decide what's going on down there, and you create that happening. And that is essentially what the mind does with our life. In that events that are happening only to us. They are not happening to anyone else. I mean, for example, if you went to do an excursion of the White House, what color do you think the White House will be on the outside?
White.
What color do you think the White House will be on the inside?
Maybe white also.
Probably. But what if you went and you decided to wear your blue shades, your sunglasses, that were tinted in blue? Now what color is the White House outside?
It's going to be blue.
And what color is the house inside?
It's it's going to be blue also.
So you come out and your friend says, wasn't that amazing? Isn't the White House like absolutely nice and white? And you go, no, not really. For me, the White House is actually blue. And this is the filter of life that we live by. And it's our shade, it's our illusion, it's our observation. And not only that, it's our translation.
I like when you said that we all as human beings should be living in that world of illusion.